as a sculptor, you're given X amount of, you know, plastic or X amount of money that is your budget, and you can't go over budget. So when you sculpt the figure, to sit there with your little tool and create seams on the costume, that's not going to cost you any money. Or to sit there, like the Toy Biz Marvel Legends, they would always add sculpted detail to like really simplistic designs. That's all we're asking for. But this dude was trying to give us excuses as to why they're not doing this stuff. Clearly it's because the sculptors they have just don't have the skills. You know what I mean? Like it's obvious when you look at the new Captain America toys versus the old Captain America toys. You can see it. You know what I'm saying? The Marvel Legends versus the Return of Marvel Legends. The new ones look cheap as fuck. They're usually fucking cast in one color. You know what I'm saying? Like one or two colors, and then there's some one or two little paint applications. You can see how cheap they're working. That shit's not really, no. Not when you have companies that have been putting out figures that cost 3 times the amount of a Marvel Legend, or 4 in some cases, like those the SH Figuarts figures, and they still manage to meet the demand all the time, regardless of the price of the figure. And now you're trying, and they're imports. And you're trying to tell me that a company here in the U.S. with these rabid, crazy-ass collectors that are all OCD and shit that have to complete a collection, you're trying to tell me that the company can't meet the demand and can't give us a quality product? It's bullshit.
Or they need to go back and restructure the stuff that they're putting out and decide whether it's worth putting that out, and maybe put that to the side and focus on
one or the other, one thing or another
or
thing,
a certain line that they know is selling, and put more money into making sure that that line comes out and it's a quality line, and market it towards those individuals that like to buy it so that they can keep that money flowing in.
Well,
I mean,
the point is that the fans need to stop just taking what's being said to them by the PR people or by whoever they're talking to, and actually tell them what needs to happen. Your fans, they listen to the fans. Lately, like if you think back 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, companies didn't give a shit what we had to say. They just gave us stuff. They were like, this is what we're making, take it or fucking leave it. That was it. I mean, we've seen companies like Toy Biz go under, Kenner went under. You saw like tons of companies disappear. LJN went under. There was a ton of companies that had good. LJN fucking had Thundercats. And they went under. And I think they had Mask. And they had like everything that Hasbro didn't make, LJN and Kenner made. Kenner had the whole DC universe, and they still fucking went under. They went under because they reused the fuck out of things over and over and over and over and over. And I think Kenner turned into... didn't they turn into Mattel? Or
I always thought they got bought out by Mattel.
Yeah, they got bought out by Mattel because the Batman, all the DC stuff ended up turning into DC superheroes, and then, yeah. So, yeah. But still, we've seen the companies fall. Like Playmates. How the fuck is Playmates still around? If what Hasbro's saying is true, then Playmates should have went under when the Turtles fell off the first time. But it's not. But no, these fans, these quote-unquote fans, are not paying attention to these things. I only know this shit because when I talk to people at conventions or when I go looking for a fucking toy, I'm like, why don't they have this toy anymore? Let me go online with this wonderful tool we have called the internet and find out the fuck happened. And it only takes like, usually it's the first thing that comes up is going to be Wikipedia, and it's going to at least give you a basis. And from there, you can kind of find what you need to find. People don't do that shit, you know?
I don't do that with anything. It's weird. Like, I've noticed that in other genres, too, like hip-hop. Like, it's so easy to go and look up, you know, an artist's discography or, you know, a history or, you know, whatever beefs they've had or whatever with other artists. And you get people just piggybacking off of what the last person said in a post somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, oh, I don't like the way this artist sounds because he's too grainy on the mic. And then you're like, well, what songs did you listen to? And then they can't tell you because they didn't listen to anything.
Yeah.
You know, it's terrible, man. Like, just look this shit up. Look it up.
No, I mean, and like, if you don't know, it's not bad to ask. We're all fans. That's the thing. All of us on any given site, mostly, because there are those lurkers, those creepers that like they're fans of something else and they want to bash what you like.
Yeah.
And they hide. But, you know, for the most part, you know, you come to a page, like when people come on any of my any of my videos, and if they ask a question, I will give you the answer to the question. I mean, if I know the answer, why else would I bring up the topic?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if I know the answer, I'm going to tell you. It's just plain and simple. If I don't, I'm going to be like, well, you could probably check here. Or I'm going to be like, I don't know. If it's about action figures and I have no idea, I'll point you in the direction of the other guys that I watch that might know. It's simple, you know what I mean? But like the fan community is so weird. Everybody thinks that their specific thing is better than your specific thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like G.I. Joe, but I only like it in 3 3/4 inches. So all you 12-inch people are a bunch of assholes. Or like Transformers fans. Man, I can't connect with Transformers fans at all. Because they're the only people I know that will bitch about the way a fucking Transformer looks and bitch about a whole wave or a whole line and then buy every fucking figure. And sometimes they bitch about the figures that cost $100 a pop. They turn around and they buy it. I'm like, wait a second.
And I'm guilty of that too, because I bought two of those third-party figures, and they're great figures, but I couldn't get over the price, but I went ahead and got them anyway.
They got you.
I know they did. You know, straight up they got me. But I did buy like 3 other figures, but I did not pay full price for them. I bought that City Commander, Ultra Magnus. I bought the knockoff version of that because I refused to pay the scalper prices. The eBay scalpers are like killing it for everyone.
Yeah, they are.
I wouldn't be surprised if a couple of those guys are actually from some of those companies selling stuff that they have in back stock on eBay, trying to get double or triple the profit.
Oh yeah.
You know,
yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest.
I mean,
not saying that that's what they are, but
video game companies do that shit now. They've been trying to get third party out, the middleman out, like GameStop. I mean, GameStop is evil. Don't get me wrong, but they want them out of there. That's why everything is moving to digital, fully digital from. It's direct to consumer from the company. They don't want a middleman in there because that way they don't have to pay another person. Everybody's getting so greedy.
Or just not even get money in general. But the game industry is effed up because they could easily rectify all that by, you know, going back to that, like when PlayStation 2 era when they had the greatest hits. They need to go back to that and like
give us cheaper versions.
Once you sell 1 million copies, sell the game at like half price.
Yeah.
You know, so that people who don't have it yet, they can wait and get it. At least then you're still getting, you know, some profit.
Yeah. But, you know, like I said, fans don't complain. The fans just go out and they pre-order every special fucking edition of every fucking game, and that's why they keep doing it. I mean,
I'm guilty of that too.
Have you seen? But you don't.
I don't
get
do
everyone.
I don't get everyone. But
like, have you seen some of the shit that comes in a special with ginormous quotes, special edition? I'm like, really? It's a Batman game, and you get a fucking a Batarang that's stuck to the stand.
Oh wow, that's lame.
And you get like these behind the scenes featurettes that some of them actually, one of them was on the regular Arkham Asylum. This was for the first Arkham Asylum. One of those featurettes, or 2 of them, were on the game. When you put your game in there and you go to your data on your PS3, you saw these 2 things pop up where it was like Joker's head with the Joker's body with the TV for the head. And there were the 2 featurettes. Anyway, those 2 things were part of the 4, I think it was 4 discs that you got in the the special edition, and I'm sitting here like, why did I have to pay $100?
So you're only getting 2 of the.
So technically, 2 of the featurettes. Yeah, 2 of the featurettes are brand new, and you wouldn't believe the amount of people that didn't pick their shit up after they did it, because I was working at GameStop at the time. Call of Duty, same shit. You get night vision goggles for when I think Modern Warfare 2 dropped.
3.
No,
you're
2.
Right, 2. Yeah.
I'm like, for real? Grown men, you really couldn't just go to Toys R Us or Dick's Sporting Goods and get night vision goggles? You had to pay $100.
Can't you order that shit online?
Yeah, for cheaper than $100. So you ordered a game.
Could go to Harvey Surplus store
and get them for like $20, and it'd be the real deal. The shit that's like waterproof and everything. And you guys paid $100 for the game and fucking night vision goggles that you can't wear and look at the screen, or you can blind yourself. Like, what? I don't understand. And the fans don't say, we don't need this shit, we need a better game. Make the game better. Give us more content on the game. Like, why can't a special edition come with more maps so you don't have to buy it as DLC later? I can tell you why.
Money, money, money.
I know, right? They like bending you over and giving you that dry dack. And it's just messed up because if we speak out and we say something, they'll stop this shit. They'll have to stop. Because, I mean, we're the ones that fuel this machine. And I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take for the fans to finally realize that they've always been the ones that fuel the machine, and what they're doing is it's backwards.
That's why I have so much respect for Katsushiro Harada, the director of the Tekken games, because it's like he already saw that shit coming based off of the fiasco that Capcom had with their DLC content, and he doesn't feel like if it's detrimental to the game, it should be free. It should come with the game because that's what you paid for. All that extra shit, costumes and blah blah blah. Even though he's giving you a lot of that stuff free anyway, if it doesn't have anything to do with
like
gameplay,
it doesn't enhance the game.
Yeah, then it's not gonna cost you anything to get it. And
it makes sense.
If every fucking company did that, gamers would be a lot happier, and I guarantee you they would get a lot more money.
Gamers that have jobs and actually like give a shit, because there's a lot of gamers who just buy whatever's out.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, when I worked at GameStop, there were people who would come in there every single release they bought on the release date. They would reserve shit like SpongeBob and fucking like those weird like games by unknown companies. Like I'm trying to think of a good example of the last game that came out that someone bought that just it didn't. But
Braid.
Well, Braid was actually not that bad.
Yeah, it was cool, but
World of Goo. World of Goo was one of the games, and I heard it's pretty good, but people were like clamoring to buy the game, and I'm like, it's an indie game, like it's gonna be here because it's not even for the mainstream, and the mainstream is not looking at it. You didn't need to reserve this shit, but they reserve everything, regardless of what it is, and that's the culture that's been built up around video games. So the fans need to like change the way they're doing some shit, I mean, if it works for you, I guess it works for you. But I'm saying, like, when you start seeing the industry make these turns, like how the gaming industry is trying to make it so that you can't buy used games, how do they have a right to tell us what we can and can't do with the game after we bought it? If I want to sell my fucking game, it should be my right. I bought it. I already gave you your money, and you got to do what you got to do with that $60. And you're going to tell me now I can't buy a game off of a friend or trade for the game because if he uses the code, I can't use that code on my system. That's bullshit. They're saying the new systems aren't even going to recognize them once they've been played in another system. The fuck? So I can't bring, if Agent O gets a game or I get a game and he doesn't get it, and I want to go over to his house and play the game on his system to show him all the awesomeness, I can't do that because his system won't recognize my game. And people are about to buy PS4 and fucking whatever the next Xbox is. Sounds like a fucking condom or some shit. The Durango.
I'm pulling my Durango.
Oh, right? Well, come on now. Anyway, but still, it's just fucked up. They're taking away your fucking rights in so many ways, and you guys just aren't paying attention. I know I jumped from comics to toys to games, but all this shit is related because
it's all fan related.
Yeah, because you've got comics, and then you have movies of those comics, and you have games based on the movie, based on the comic, and you have toys based on the comic, movie, whatever that franchise is, and then you turn around, you have, like I said video games already, right? Yeah, so it's like just one big cycle, and these days you see more of that kind of shit than anything else, so it's just like, if we don't do something, it's just going to continue going on the way it's going. Freaking everything's gonna be like $30 a pop. Every figure will be $30 a pop, and they're gonna look like the Return of Marvel Legends with no paint apps and shit. I mean, and it's weird because you have Return of Marvel Legends, and then you had the movie, the Marvel Studio series. The Studio series looked like old Marvel Legends with less paint, but the Marvel Legends look like cheap dollar store versions of Marvel Legends. But when people do reviews, you never hear this. I think I was one of the only people to say that shit. And I don't understand why it is that a fan feels that if you are a fan, actually, this is what I was gonna say way back when. If you're a fan of something, you don't have to buy every fucking piece of merchandise that belongs to that line, that franchise, whatever. That doesn't make you more of a fan. That makes you a fool, because you're spending all your money on all this shit that doesn't really do anything to enrich anything.
Or it's not even, it's of lesser quality than the stuff you were buying before.
Yeah, like, you don't have to buy every single figure in the Marvel Legends wave because you like Marvel. Not really. I mean, if it's a shitty figure, you can omit that figure. Or you don't have to buy the fucking socks and the underwear and the mug and all that shit. Most of us are adults, like, for real. I mean, you can like what you like. I like that shit too sometimes, but you don't have to get everything. It doesn't have to be like that. You don't have to, you're not proving, you don't win an award for being the most dorkiest fan, you know, or the fan with the most money. Nobody gives a shit. Like, I don't get it. And I noticed that there are...
companies give a shit because they want your money. But...
Yeah, true. I mean, like us, regular people, your friends aren't going to be like, oh my God, you're the greatest. They're going to be like, you're a fucking nerd and you have too much shit. You need to sell this stuff and handle your business like a real adult. I mean, I'm not... Like, I have a lot of toys. But, like, I also have a house. So it's not like I'm not spending... And all my toys fit in this one room. On a couple, I have like, what, 4 cases? A little more than 4. I have 6 cases.
Yeah, like 7.
7 cases. I have 7 cases. And they all fit on those cases along with my TV and my systems and my DVDs and all that shit. And it's a lot. But I got to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm cool. I'm not really going overboard anymore. Some people go overboard to the point where the whole house is like that. And I'm not saying that someone should be should police what you do with your money. What I'm saying is, it doesn't make you any more of a fan because you have all this shit and you didn't really pay attention to the franchise.
You may have a problem, like one of those impulsive buyers.
A lot of people are compulsive buyers. I mean, especially with action figures and stuff. But yeah. I've noticed that, like,
or people buying like 20 of, 20 foot soldiers or something like that. You know, you don't need all that, man.
Yes, you do.
No, you don't.
I'm just kidding. I don't even have 20 foot soldiers.
Or like the basic Cobra soldier, you know.
I have 6 of them.
Yeah, you don't need 20 or like I've seen some people who have like, I mean, they have like a little army going on.
Yeah, there was a dude on YouTube with 1,000. You know, props to him if he's gonna do something.
How do you even find all that?
Yeah, I know, right? That's the reason why I couldn't find them when I was a kid, because there's cats like that. But no, I'm not saying they shouldn't or they should do it. What I'm saying is, in our culture nowadays, the guys who have the most shit think that makes them the biggest fan. But if you were to have a conversation with them about whatever it is they're a fan of, they can't really tell you about it because they spend all their time buying merchandise and not actually appreciating the object of their fandom.
Oh my God! Perfect example is the one guy that you had, the argument about Blade. He showed you all that stuff. He showed him all this merchandise that he had from the Blade movies, because I'm not doubting that he's a fan of the Blade movies, but the guy didn't really know that much about his actual history in comic book form. He couldn't really tell. He did have like a collected synopsis book of Blade, but like I didn't have hardly any of that stuff, but I do have the comics. I do have the Blade comics.
Yeah, I mean, like,
I have the DVDs. I have, a couple of the action figures. I'm still kicking myself to this day for not getting the Hot Toys Blade 2 figure, because that shit is nice. Yeah, it is. But I'm not paying $150.
$350.
Well, now, but when it first came out, it was like $150, and I wasn't even gonna do that.
Yeah, I agree.
But I went out on eBay. I bought, the collected what is it?
Night Stalkers.
Yeah, I got the Night Stalkers. I got, the original Blade series, and then I bought the horrible Blade, like 13. No, I bought that too, but then there was, after that they had the 13 issue. No, it was like a 13 issue. It was one where he got his hand cut off and he replaced it with a machine gun. Ugh. That whole series is terrible. Yeah. Don't ever buy it. Don't even get the trade.
Yeah.
But I'm a fan of Blade, so I'm a fan of the comics, you know, so I'm going to get that stuff and I'm going to get the knowledge.
Well, because, you get the information from the comics, you know? Yeah, it's true. It's true. I mean, like, no disrespect to him. after we went through all of that, we actually talked about just Blade and not the merchandise and stuff. And it was more like there were things he missed because he got into it at a certain point. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I guess in some cases there are fans who their knowledge starts from a certain point and goes forward, and that's how they don't know what the fuck is going on with stuff that we might mention from back in the day. Because with us, look, we went back to the beginning to make sure we knew what was going on, you know? And these days it's easy. There's so many ways to go back and find out about whatever comic book character you want to, you know, learn about. You just got to be willing to sit down and read the fucking comics, you know? And there's a lot of people who, they want to go the route of, let me show off, but let me not actually read the comics, you know? And then they get mad if you point it out to them that you didn't really know what you were talking about. Like, this is what happened. And it's a fact, because these things are on a printed page. Nowadays, people have scanned this stuff, so you can get it online.
Yeah.
All collected for you. You don't have to do any work except sit and wait for the shit to download. Both legally and illegally. So, like, there's no excuse for fans to not know that Cable's old X-Force team, you know, had, like, Cannonball and Shatterstar and
Domino.
You know, and Domino and all those people, and it was drawn by Rob Liefeld. There's no excuse for you not to know that there was a point in time where Wolverine was actually drawn at 5'1" or 5'2".
I think it was 5'3".
Something like that. But he was still, like, really short and really stocky looking, and he would get his ass whooped, but he would always keep getting up until he could wear the other person out and beat them. There was a time where he was not Jesus like he is now. There was a time where the Hulk actually made sense, where Banner and Brute and the Hulk, actually it was a balance between the two. You know, there was a time where Batman was not the goddamn Batman. You know, there was a time where Batman used to get his ass whooped in his own book. You know, it happens seldomly now, but there was a point in time when Superman was literally God. He was that fucking powerful. He was a god on this planet. People think he's powerful now, and he really doesn't do anything that insane. There was a point in time where Superman could do a one-handed push-up on the ground and push the Earth out of orbit. That's how fucking powerful this guy was. And you guys, like, if you were born in the 90s, the late 90s, or you were a baby during that time, you know, and you turned 10 by 2000, you ignored all that shit. And you can go back and read it at any point in time because it's all sitting here on the fucking wonderful internet. It's that simple, you know. There was a point in time where the Bat books actually made sense. They didn't go overboard. They strictly did what they set out to do, and it's protect Gotham. That was it. There wasn't all this weird elitist deconstructionism that happens now with DC and Marvel whenever Grant Morrison gets a hold of a fucking, you know, comic book franchise or character or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was a point in time where we had several books to choose from. So if you hated this book, you had like 10 others to choose from. I remember there was a time when there were like at least 8 Bat books.
Yeah.
Like different Batman, just
Detective
himself.
Comics, Shadow of the Bat.
Legends of the Batman. All this shit that you could choose one that fit what you like. Nowadays, they're slacking because it's like 1 or 2 Bat books that feature Batman in it. There's fucking this New 52 bullshit, but then there's still books that have Batman in the old continuity. Why the fuck would you do... Yeah. I saw that shit and I was like, are you kidding me?
I didn't know that.
I was so mad. I'm like, this makes no sense. But
yeah, that whole New 52 is a clusterfuck. I don't care what anybody says. Whether you like it or not, it's a clusterfuck.
What they should have done is just change people's costumes and move forward from there. And just call it a day. Because that's really the only reason why they even changed all this shit. They tried to weed out books that weren't selling. And instead, they ended up creating a whole lot of more books that aren't selling. Yeah, and it's frustrating because I want to like
also
some of that
for
stuff.
Licensing issues too?
Because
copyright.
Of Superman. I think some of their copyrights ran out. I think. Yeah, their copyright on the original Superman is gone. It's up, so now they can do whatever the fuck they want because the Schuster family said, you know, this is how it's going to be from this point to this point. I guess you know how copyrights are usually 50 years plus, it's your lifetime plus 50 years. So if the creator dies, then 50 years pass, then the rights are just up in the air or some shit like that. All my copyrights is lifetime, my lifetime, and then 50 years, and then after that, whatever. Good luck with that, because it's taking a while, but whatever. Yeah, pretty much they wanted to be able to do whatever the fuck they want to do with Superman, and now they can. So now he can hump Wonder Woman, because they can do that if they want to, because it's not the old school Superman that we grew up with. Shit like that just frustrates me, because it's like the fans know, I'm not saying change is bad, but what I'm saying is change for the sake of change is bad. You didn't enrich the character. You didn't really improve the character. What was the point of it?
I kind of wonder what his legacy is going to be like now. You know,
He's
is he still going to be...
Superman is now an asshole. Bullshit, man. Like, maybe it'll get better. You know, I'm not going to count my chickens before they hatch. I'm not going to completely look... It could be a gift horse, I guess. Could be. But I'm not going to diss him completely, but I'm not impressed. And it's change for the sake of change. I'm definitely not impressed that the only person of color in the New 52, his book succeeds because Batman pops up in it.
Batwing.
And Batwing is not that interesting of a character. You know, and it's funny how, you know, people will argue, people will fight with us, and they will complain and whatever. But if you really look at it, his book succeeds because Batman drops in from time to time to babysit the book because it has Bat in the title. DC has done with Batman, like I said in that force-fed character spot, they've done with Batman the same thing that Marvel's been doing with Wolverine. And nobody says anything about it. Few people say anything about it. We just love Batman so much that we don't care.
Well, it's become... Everybody realizes it, and it's just become a joke. Like like when they did... When NetherRealm Studios put out the special edition for that... you know, Gods Amongst Us game.
Yeah, I saw it where Batman's about to get crushed by
and then people were writing in the comments like that can't happen because Batman never loses. You know, it's a fucking... Everybody's just treating it like a joke now, so it's just become a part of, like, pop culture. You know, you see little comic strips and stuff. Like, I saw a comic strip where Batman was in space, and his dome of his space helmet was cut off at the top, and Superman's like, Batman, how are you surviving like this? You know, you can't survive without air. And Batman's basically like, I'm the goddamn Batman.
Of course.
You know?
Of course. Yeah, it's becoming, I don't know. It's like they're all becoming parodies of themselves, and that shouldn't be the case. There needs to be a little bit more respect with the characters. Definitely. I mean, they're superheroes, for God's sake. You know, like, who wouldn't want to be one of these guys? You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, we're adults. Real life is real life. We understand the difference. But the whole point is for us to use our imaginations and kind of escape through these characters. If you don't treat them with respect, like, what's the point then? We're just going to be... It's literally for kids when it becomes that kind of way. You know what I mean? Where you're not treating it with the respect that it deserves.
Sometimes it feels like comics today, it's more about the spectacle with the superheroes themselves than it is about them, about, you know, the age-old, you know, good triumphing over evil and, you know, instilling those idealistic, you know, like core values that, you know, you grew up with, that we grew up with when we were kids. You know,
because it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't, but, you know, it'd be nice if comics still retain that at least those little aspects, you know, along with, you know, what reflects in our everyday life. Because, you know, that, you know, truth, justice, and the American way never actually existed in America.
Yeah.
So you still need superhero characters that want to live to that standard in comics, if not anywhere else in the world, because it doesn't exist there. At least let it be there.
Yeah.
You know, so that somebody out there,
setting an example.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing I've pointed out before to other people too, is that the heroes, if you put out, this is why I didn't like Watchmen as a film. It kind of said, like, if we shut up this one guy, we can all pretend like nothing happened. Like, our government actually does that shit on a daily basis, and these motherfuckers put on costumes to make a difference. But then in the end, they did exactly the same thing our government does, and everyone's like, this is the greatest, oh my God. If you become a symbol for something, I mean, this is something that, it's probably the one thing that was conveyed properly in the Dark Knight trilogy. And I guess we got to thank Michael Caine for explaining this shit to people who don't understand it. If you're just a person, you're just a person. People know you're a person. They understand you have limitations. You have a lifespan, like a believable lifespan, you know? But if you're a symbol, which is why these motherfuckers put on costumes, you're like immortal. Because anybody could be the symbol. Everybody could be the fucking symbol. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can all be Batman, and the character is never gonna go anywhere.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Kill an idea.
Yeah, exactly. So when people say, you know, superheroes are stupid, blah blah blah, you don't get it, and that's cool. It's not for you. But the people that do get it, you understand where I'm coming from. Modern myth. You never see Hercules running around in a tutu with a shotgun. Because that's not what happened. That's not how the stories go. You know what I mean? He didn't go up to Olympus and rip Zeus's head off. No, Kratos did that shit. No, I'm just kidding. But that's not what Hercules did. You know, and you know, granted, when you hear his stories, there'll be certain things that people might forget because he has a pretty rich history. But you could tell what he did based on the things that people will, you know, mention. If they forget his name. When they say 12 labors, everybody's like, oh shit, Hercules, we know. You know? He killed the Nemean lion. Yeah, Hercules, we know exactly who that is. Why is it with our mythology, which is these guys, this shit just keeps changing to be cooler because it has to fit this demographic's need for what's cool. You know, we have to make SpiderMan a little more emo so he fits in today. The fuck? We gotta make him ride a skateboard because that's what kids in New York all do. All kids, no matter what color, they fucking dress like Spider-Man and ride skateboards in New York City. Because there's no diversity, no difference, even just amongst white New Yorkers. You know? White teenage New Yorkers. You're trying to tell me he couldn't still look dorky like the original Peter Parker that we grew up with? There's kids that still dress like that right now.
Yeah.
But
at least they didn't make him a hipster.
Yeah, I know. But he was close.
Yeah.
He was really close, but at least he was a likable character. I'm just talking about the visual. This is the thing. When we go back to the comics, most artists always go back to what he looked like back in the day because Spider-Man actually, he was like, wasn't he like in college when this shit happened? He had just finished high school.
He was in, what, you talking about the movies or the comics?
No, the comics.
No, in the comics, he was still in high school when he became Spider-Man.
I thought it was like his senior year. He was like him leaving college or high school, getting into college when he got the job with.
I know he was still in high school. I'm not sure when. I mean, I know it wasn't his freshman year.
Yeah,
it had to be either his junior or senior year.
Yeah, because I have some old books where like I have the book where he tried to drive. Because the original Spider-Man never got his driver's license. So Johnny Storm gave him a car, like a Spider-Mobile, quote unquote. It was this buggy. And he drove that shit into the Hudson. Because he never had a license. But he was a man. This is my point. He was older than 15 in the original story. And a lot of artists go back to that look when they draw Peter Parker. Unless it's Ultimate Spider-Man, where he's in high school and he's like 15 years old. You know what I'm saying? But there was no need to make such a big change. I mean, that was like almost a personality change because the way you dress reflects your personality, you know? Instead of being timid and kind of to yourself, they made him a lot more confident and a lot more, like, he was cool.
Yeah.
Peter Parker's not supposed to be cool. I mean, he's cool when he's behind the mask. He's not supposed to be cool outside.
That could have been them trying to channel some of that Ultimate Spider-Man.
Exactly.
Even though he still got bullied and was still considered a nerd.
Yeah. He still wasn't as lame as
he still had friends. He still had a hot girlfriend with Mary Jane.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they changed. That's an example of making a change, and it was like all the changes were made for the better of the character because it's still everything that made the original Spider-Man what he was still contained in Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Even with all the changes.
And we're not talking about the cartoon.
No,
we're not talking about the damn cartoon.
Talking about the comic book.
Yeah. But, you know, it's modern myth, and what I'm saying in a nutshell is the myths stay the same no matter who tells the story. They tweak things, they add things, sometimes people forget things, but the story in general stays the same. It's kind of like oral tradition, kind of, you know? It stays the same no matter who tells the fucking story. With our modern myth, every 10 years, the myth completely changes, or key portions of the myth are cut off so that it'll be easier for this new generation to understand. You know what I'm saying? Like, Superman started out being ridiculously powerful. People didn't like that, so they cut the myth. Now he's a little weaker, so you can deal with it and you like him. And I understand sales have to be made. I get it. So they got to cut things and make it palpable for the audience. I get it. It makes sense. But still, the disrespect for the story is the problem that I'm saying that we have. The story was given to you. You didn't write the story. So as a fan, you got to read it, take it in. You got to either let it bounce around in your head and make sense, or you ignore it altogether and go read something else. If you don't like Superman, good. You don't like Superman. Don't bitch to the point where the creators now have to change to appease you. You don't like him. Okay, so move on. Find the guy you do like. You know what I'm saying? Like, no one says that shit about Greek myth.